Joining me now is Peter Cashin from Imperial Mining Group. Welcome.
Thank you, Stu. Good to be here.
Before we get started, what's your symbol? What market are you on?
IPG, we're on the Venture Exchange, Toronto Stock Venture Exchange.
So, Imperial Mining Group, very interesting group. You're in a variety of sort of diverse areas, but one in particular that has really got my interest is scandium. What is scandium and why should we care? Because I think for the most person they go, what?
Yeah.
It's what?
Yeah, it's scandium is a light metal, probably chemically equivalent to titanium and lithium in that same area of the periodic table. But its real claim to fame is that it's used in the aluminum alloys industry. It allows aluminum, recrystallizes, refines the grain size of the aluminum, strengthens it, makes it corrosion resistant, makes it very strong, and it becomes therefore a competitive, strong lightweighting element for input into the aerospace industry, the automotive industry.
Well, because it'll compete with titanium then, won't it?
That's correct, yeah.
But it brings other properties with it, namely weight.
That's right. It's scandium-aluminum alloy is about 40% lighter than titanium alloy itself.
And that's a substantial difference, especially once you get into larger kinds of vehicles or aircraft and so on. It's going to make a huge difference.
Correct. We've been actively involved in looking at the downstream. Where is there going to be, in other words, we're trying to create the market for this product. Mm-hmm. And the early adopters appear to be the automotive industry. We've done a lot of marketing in Europe in particular, because with the incoming fuel efficiency and greenhouse gas standards that they're instituting in EU, most of the competing lightweighting products, carbon composites, titanium alloys, high-strength steels, don't seem to provide that level, that necessary characteristic that the automakers are looking for, which is lightening up the chassis of the vehicle itself.
But still retaining strength. And are there not flexibility benefits as well?
That's correct. In terms of, and that's only in the use of about 0.2 to 0.4% titanium, or sorry, scandium in with the aluminum. It will give
which
you
is almost trace amounts, isn't it?
It's Robert Friedland, who runs one of our peer companies, calls it a spice metal. And that
spice metal.
A very small little bit of sprinkling of scandium into aluminum metal will significantly, almost double and triple the mechanical characteristics of the alloy itself.
It is a rare metal, though. Up until now, primarily we were seeing it in Russia, Ukraine, and a little bit into China. You have a property here in Canada.
That's correct.
What's the benefit of us being able to mine this rare product here in Canada? Well,
a lot of mineral policy in Canada, in most of our provinces, has really been geared towards traditional metals. Mm-hmm. The coppers and the zincs and the golds and the silvers. But with the rare earth boom in 2009, I think governments became more attuned to the fact that there's significant value that can be created in these metals. Mm-hmm. Scandium is a unique metal. It has unique characteristics, especially when we're looking at reducing pollution effects of air travel in cars. The benefit is that really the impediment to broader consumption of scandium has been sustainability of supply. Because the automotive companies are putting, before they'd be willing to put billions of dollars in material R&D and platform R&D, they want to have an insured supply that will repay all of that R&D investment. Mm-hmm. And our Crater Lake project would be able to provide that material.
You've already identified that there is a reliable source.
That's correct. We have one resource. It would be sufficient for 20 years of production. But we've identified alternative targets that as of Monday, we are starting to drill, and they look to be double and triple the grade of what we have found initially. Now, we did a preliminary financial model on the one deposit. They're very robust. So ultimately, I think what the automotive industry is looking for is their tipping point is price point.
Yeah.
And right now, market price for scandium is about $2,500 per kilogram, or about $1,140 a pound.
Yeah.
Very expensive input.
Well, and that's at the lower end of the scale, because at times I've seen it's jumped up as high as $20,000.
That's correct. That's correct. So we've done a lot of marketing research. We've done a lot of interfacing with the auto industry executives, the aerospace industry. I did quite a bit of marketing for U.S. military applications. And we find that particularly for the commercial ventures, the automotive companies, they're very price sensitive. So their tipping point for broader consumption use of scandium is $1,200 per kilogram. And I priced our financial model at $1,500. And when we did a sensitivity analysis, we could actually still have a fair return on our project, but at a $1,100 price. So we're right at that point. We're right in the sweet spot of what the auto industry is telling us. They will adopt the material in a very large way.
So you would be producing or generating this resource and have a direct relationship with manufacturers. So you're not going through the market, you're going directly to them.
That's
You're
correct.
cutting out the middleman.
Exactly. I think these commodities, these technology metal commodities, rare earths or titanium or lithium or scandium, they're really not mining development opportunities. They're truly industrial development opportunities, and particularly in scandium, it has such a broad consumption base. So manufacturing, aerospace, automobiles, fuel cells, now 3D printing in the manufacturing area is coming into mode. You can actually
So scandium will play a role in 3D modeling.
That's correct.
Or 3D printing.
metal
yeah.
printing. That's correct.
Because it will strengthen the materials.
Correct.
And give that a durability.
Correct, but it's also provides the manufacturer the ability to make very complex parts. And there's even internal cooling channels that you could never recreate with conventional casting. So it has big application. And as an example, there was a recent report where Boeing was quoted that in instituting an aspect of 3D printing in the manufacture of a Dreamliner, they could save themselves about $3 million per plane.
Per plane.
Just by utilizing 3D printing.
So it's extraordinary. When I was doing my research about this, I saw that in the late 80s, I think it was General Motors that started, hang on a second, this can help us in the manufacturing of headlights, and they started to pioneer that. But it is a process that's been picked up by auto manufacturers throughout North America and in Europe.
That's correct. That's correct.
So the market is there because of the benefits that it brings to the overall weight and durability of aluminum in the manufacturing of their vehicles.
Correct.
Wow, it's quite an extraordinary opportunity.
It is truly, but it's to communicate that, and I think this effort is to really outline the benefits of having a scandium opportunity in North America.
So I want to ask you, what is the advantage also to companies like Porsche and BMW and high-end vehicles that have a brand and a reputation that they have to protect? What's the benefit to them to be able to source from a jurisdiction like Canada and in particular Quebec? Because we're operating at very high environmental standards.
Correct.
And so on. Is there a Canadian advantage here?
Environmental sustainability by European manufacturers is very high on their list of priorities. To the point where they kind of shy away from direct involvement with resource development projects because of the environmental liability concerns that they express. I think in being able to present, as you rightly point out, a resource opportunity and jurisdiction that respects environmental sustainability, as well as social licensure,
right?
Dealing with your stakeholders, to be very positive thing. And of course, Canada's renowned as being one of the top mining jurisdictions in the world for the reason that we're reliable partners.
Well, I can't help but add into that, there are political tensions between Europe, North America, and Russia in particular that make the trading across that barrier a little bit more difficult than dealing with a Canadian supplier. So that would give you another unique advantage.
Correct. And don't forget, CETA, the comprehensive free trade agreement with the EU and Canada.
That's right.
Will be very positive, and it's going to eliminate another level of concern, risk, which is the tariff risk of trading commodities such as scandium with the European manufacturers.
So we spent most of our time talking about scandium, but that's not all you do. Let's touch on a little bit, what else is your company involved in?
Well, Imperial was created as a result of a reverse takeover of a Quebec-based base metal and gold company, and our Crater Lake scandium property, and we just listed in January of this last year on the TSXV. So, and the properties, the base metal properties and the gold properties, both are outstanding in their own right. And I know that investors have concerns about companies that are too diversified in terms of their commodity base, but in actual fact, my view is I'm a generalist, and I've had success in all different commodity areas. And in my view, having those properties just add intrinsic value to the proposition of an investment in Imperial.
So even without scandium, you say we're an attractive opportunity.
We
here.
are, absolutely, yeah, that's our view.
So long term, well, let's talk short term, long term. Short term steps, getting to market, developing these relationships. What's your timeline look like?
Well, let's start on the scandium area.
Yep.
We've done a lot of the preliminary work. We've identified higher grade targets from the one we've defined. We've just mobilized the drill and the drill crews to the property. The intent there is we've identified a target that we want to do sufficient drilling to bring into an inferred resource category. That work should be done by the end of April. It's our plan to deliver on the resource estimate, 43-101 compliant, of course, by the end of May, early June. We've contracted a European metallurgical contractor that will help us with developing of the recovery flow sheet for the scandium. That work will continue through the summer and fall. And then those pieces plus we've got the German Aerospace Center in Stuttgart that's helping us with the downstream, helping us to understand the market and put dollar and consumption figures on scandium for the automotive area, for aerospace, and trains as well, transportation industry as well.
They're literally working in association with you, if not partnership.
They are. That's
because
part
they
of
want to consolidate that market.
That's correct, and they're part of the consortiums we're trying to build to undertake platform and application research and development. To not only build on what's the existing consumption areas for scandium-aluminum, but also to create brand new markets to expand the market.
Pretty exciting time.
And then a PEA at the end of the year, and our gold property is going to be drilled, and we have a partner drilling currently drilling our copper zinc property. So
you're not sleeping much.
Very busy, but very good news flow. I'm right to the end of 2019. We should have fairly consistent news flow.
So you'll come back and give us updates on that, because I'm keen to know where this goes, because it's one of the most exciting things that I've heard in a long time. And the fact that it's coming out of a Canadian mine site, I think is really, really exciting.
We're looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in and sharing that.
Thank you.